The envelope felt heavier than it should have. Marcus stared at the crisp $100 bills inside, more money than he'd seen in weeks, and felt his stomach turn. His daughter's medication sat unpaid at the pharmacy. The eviction notice was still taped to his apartment door, and here was his answer, wasn't it? All he had to do was ruin one date, make one woman feel small, crush one stranger's hope for connection. The voice on the phone had been clear. Just make sure she never wants to see him again. Be cruel if you have to. We're counting on you. Marcus pocketed the money with shaking hands, hating himself already. The restaurant was nicer than anywhere he'd eaten in months. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over white tablecloths, and the soft murmur of conversation mixed with classical music playing overhead. Marcus spotted his target. Immediately, a young woman sitting alone at a corner table, her small frame barely visible above the elaborate centerpiece. She was checking her phone, then looking toward the door with an expression that made his chest tighten. Hope, nervous excitement, the kind of vulnerability that made what he was about to do feel like kicking a puppy. Her name was Sophie. The voice on the phone had told him that much, along with enough details to make this setup work. Her date, some guy named Brandon, wasn't coming. Brandon's ex-girlfriend had paid Marcus to intercept this date, to pose as Brandon, and to make sure Sophie left feeling so humiliated she'd never contact him again. It was petty and cruel, and Marcus knew it. But his 7-year-old daughter, Emma, needed her asthma medication. The pharmacy wouldn't wait anymore. He approached the table, and Sophie looked up. Her face lit up with a smile that nearly broke him. "Brandon?" she asked, her voice hopeful. "Yeah," Marcus lied, the word tasting like poison. "Sorry I'm late." Sophie's smile widened. She was beautiful, warm brown eyes, an infectious energy that seemed to radiate from her despite her nervous fidgeting. "No problem at all. I'm just glad you made it. I was starting to worry you'd changed your mind." Marcus sat down, his mind racing through the script he'd been paid to perform. He was supposed to make comments about her height. She had dwarfism. That much was obvious. He was supposed to act embarrassed, look around to see if anyone was watching them, maybe make a scene. The ex-girlfriend had been explicit. Make her feel like a freak. Make her wish she'd never agreed to this date. But as Sophie started talking, asking him about his day, sharing a funny story about something that happened at her work. As a graphic designer, Marcus found the cruel words stuck in his throat. "You okay?" Sophie asked, noticing his silence. "You seem distracted." "I'm fine," Marcus managed. "Just long day." The waiter came by, and Sophie ordered with the kind of enthusiasm that suggested she didn't get out much. When it was his turn, Marcus picked something cheap, too aware of the money burning in his pocket. Money that wasn't his. Money that came with strings attached to someone else's heartbreak. "So, tell me about yourself," Sophie said, leaning forward with genuine interest. "Your profile said you're a single dad." Marcus froze. That was his detail, not Brandon's. He'd slipped up already. Yeah, he admitted, then caught himself. "I mean, I have a daughter, Emma. She's 7. Sophie's entire face transformed with warmth. "That's wonderful. Being a parent must be incredible. Is she with a sitter tonight?" "My neighbor," Marcus said quietly. The truth was slipping out despite himself. Mrs. Chen from 3B, who watched Emma for free sometimes because she knew how hard things were, because she was kind, unlike what he was being paid to be right now. "I bet she's amazing," Sophie said. "Kids have such pure hearts, you know. They see people for who they really are, not all the surface stuff adults get hung up on." The words hit Marcus like a punch. He thought about Emma, about how she'd never judged someone by their appearance, how she'd befriended the kid at school everyone else avoided because he had a speech impediment, how she'd asked him once why it mattered, what people looked like on the outside when the inside stuff is where all the good things live. "Are you sure you're okay?" Sophie asked again, her brow furrowing with concern. "You look upset." Marcus opened his mouth to deliver one of the cruel lines he'd rehearsed. Instead, what came out was, "I need to tell you something." Sophie waited, her expression open and trusting in a way that made what he was about to confess even harder. I'm not Brandon, Marcus said, the words tumbling out in a rush. Brandon's ex-girlfriend paid me to come here and ruin your date. She gave me money to make you feel terrible about yourself, to say awful things about your appearance, to make sure you'd never want to see Brandon again. I was supposed to humiliate you. The color drained from Sophie's face. For a long moment, she just stared at him, processing. Marcus watched emotions flicker across her features. Shock, hurt, anger, betrayal. He deserved all of it. "Why are you telling me this?" she finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because I can't do it," Marcus said, feeling something break loose in his chest. "I came here desperate. My daughter needs medicine I can't afford. We're about to be evicted. I saw that money and I thought I could stomach doing something horrible if it meant taking care of Emma. But sitting here, talking to you, I can't be that person. I won't." Sophie was silent, her hands folded on the table in front of her. Marcus could see them trembling slightly. "I'm so sorry," he continued, pulling the envelope from his pocket and setting it on the table. "This is what she paid me. You should have it, or throw it away. I don't care. I just needed you to know that none of this was real, and that you deserve so much better than—" "How much do you need?" Sophie interrupted. Marcus blinked. "What?" "For your daughter's medicine. How much do you need?" "I can't ask you for—" "You're not asking. I'm offering." Sophie's voice was steady now, though her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "How much?" $300, Marcus admitted. "But Sophie, after what I almost did to you—" "You didn't do it," Sophie said firmly. She reached for the envelope, counted out some bills, then pulled out her wallet and added more. "You chose not to. That matters." Marcus stared at the money she was pushing across the table toward him. "Why would you help me? I was going to destroy your evening. I was going to make you feel like I've felt 1,000 times before." Sophie finished. Her smile was sad but genuine. "Marcus, that is your real name, right?" He nodded. "People have tried to make me feel small my entire life. Some succeed, some don't. But you know what I've learned? The people who try to hurt others are usually the ones who are hurting the most themselves. That doesn't excuse—" "No, it doesn't," Sophie agreed. "But understanding doesn't mean excusing. It means choosing what kind of person you want to be, despite your circumstances. You chose honesty over cruelty. You chose integrity over money. That tells me who you really are." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "My daughter would like you," he said hoarsely. "She says the inside stuff is where all the good things live." Sophie laughed, a genuine sound that cut through the tension. "She sounds incredibly wise. And she's lucky to have a dad who wants to be a good man even when it's hard." They sat there for a moment, the restaurant continuing its elegant bustle around them, oblivious to the small miracle of human decency happening at their corner table. "For what it's worth," Marcus said, "Brandon's an idiot. Anyone who'd let someone sabotage a chance to know you is missing out on something special." Sophie's eyes glistened. "That might be the kindest thing anyone's said to me in a long time. It's just the truth." A thought seemed to occur to Sophie, and she tilted her head. "Have you eaten? Like really eaten? Not just today, recently." Marcus hesitated, and that was answer enough. "Okay, new plan," Sophie said, flagging down their waiter. "We're going to have dinner, a real one. And you're going to tell me about Emma. And I'm going to tell you about my absolutely chaotic family. And we're going to have a nice evening, because honestly, I got all dressed up. And I'm not letting Brandon's petty ex-girlfriend ruin that." "I can't let you pay for—" "You can, and you will," Sophie said with an authority that surprised him. "Consider it payment for your honesty. That's a rare commodity these days." What followed was one of the strangest and most genuine evenings Marcus had experienced in years. Sophie was funny, sharp, and disarmingly honest. She told him about growing up different, about the stares and comments, but also about the incredible people who'd seen past the surface. She talked about her work, her dream of starting her own design company, her complicated relationship with online dating. Marcus found himself opening up in ways he hadn't with anyone since his wife died 3 years ago. He talked about Emma, about the fear of not being enough for her, about the crushing weight of trying to be both parents and never quite measuring up. "You're measuring up," Sophie said firmly. "Emma has a father who loves her enough to face his worst self and choose better. That's everything." When the check came, Sophie insisted on paying. As they walked out together, Marcus felt lighter than he had in months, despite having arrived with the intention of doing something unforgivable. "Thank you," he said as they stood on the sidewalk outside. "For your kindness, for your grace, for being so much better than I deserved tonight." Sophie reached up. She had to stretch and squeezed his arm. "We all deserve kindness, Marcus. Every single one of us, even when we forget that about ourselves." She started to walk away, then turned back. "Hey, would it be weird if I gave you my number? Not for dating or anything, just, I don't know. It might be nice to have a friend who understands what it means to choose the harder right over the easier wrong." Marcus felt his eyes sting as he pulled out his phone. "I'd like that." 3 weeks later, Marcus and Emma sat at a playground while Sophie showed Emma some of her design work on a tablet. His daughter was entranced, asking a million questions, and Sophie answered each one with patience and enthusiasm. Marcus had gotten a new job, one Sophie had helped him find through a connection at her company. The eviction had been avoided. Emma's medicine cabinet was full, but more than any of that, Marcus had found something he didn't know he was missing. Hope. Hope that even in desperate moments, we can choose who we want to be. Hope that kindness exists in unexpected places. Hope that sometimes the people we almost hurt become the ones who save us. As he watched his daughter laugh at something Sophie said, Marcus thought about the envelope he'd almost taken, the cruelty he'd almost committed. He thought about second chances and the strange grace of strangers who become friends. "Dad," Emma called. "Sophie says she'll teach me to draw." "Isn't that cool?" "The coolest," Marcus agreed, meeting Sophie's eyes across the playground. She smiled at him, that same warm smile from their first meeting, and in it, he saw everything good about humanity. The capacity for forgiveness, the power of choosing compassion, the quiet revolution of treating each other with dignity, especially when the world makes it hard to do so. Sometimes, Marcus thought, the best things in life come from the moments when we refuse to be less than we can be, when we choose connection over cruelty, when we let someone's humanity change everything.